Hello everyone. Today we are diving into a world where space and time are no longer barriers. This is the story of David Rice, a man who can be anywhere in the blink of an eye. At 15, David is just another face in the crowd. He is totally crushing on a girl named Millie. One winter day, David gathers his courage to give Millie a gift, a snow globe of the Eiffel Tower. But Mark, the school bully, intercepts the gift and throws it onto the thin ice of the frozen Huron River. David walks out onto the ice to retrieve it, but the surface cracks, and he is swallowed by the freezing water. As David struggles under the ice, drowning and desperate, something inside him snaps. In a flash of darkness and noise, he is no longer in the river. He is in the local library. He is wet, shivering, and confused, but he is alive. Returning home, he finds his father, William, more concerned with his own anger than his son's near-death experience. William keeps ranting outside his door. Just as he bursts into the room, David lands right back in the library. That is the exact moment David discovers his ability to jump. So the next day, he starts practicing this wild new power. But he is a total rookie, and he can't quite control it yet. He looks around in a panic, hoping nobody saw him. Luckily, after practicing non-stop, he learns to go exactly where he wants. Back home, he sees a picture of the Empire State Building in a book. It reminds him of a trip he took there with his mom, Mary, when he was a kid. He focuses his mind, and boom, he is standing right on the Empire State Building. Looking at the view, he can't believe it's real. He realizes this power is his ticket to unlimited wealth. He immediately jumps back home and packs his bags, ready to leave his miserable home for good, just like his mom did years ago. Before he goes, he says one last goodbye to Millie. He wants to tell her everything, but he figures she would never believe in superpowers. So he leaves town and heads to New York City, staying in a cheap hotel, but the room costs him every penny he has. So, the next day, David heads to a local bank. He hesitates at first, but to survive, he knows he has to take the leap. He asks the security guard where the restroom is. Seeing David is just a kid, the guard lets his guard down and escorts him to the staff restroom inside. David uses that split second to memorize the inside of the vault. Back in his room, David gathers his gear. Then, he jumps straight into the vault. Seeing stacks and stacks of cash, David is absolutely thrilled. He starts frantically stuffing money into sacks and transports all the cash back to his room. One trip isn't enough, so he goes back for more, until the entire room is carpeted in money. Having never seen this much cash, David is buzzing. He literally sleeps on a pile of money. From that moment on, David's lifestyle changes completely. All grown up, he doesn't just have a luxury penthouse, he has his own private vault. It is the life everyone dreams of. Then, David grabs an umbrella and gets ready to head out. The concierge reminds him there is no rain in New York today. David knows that, of course, but today he is heading to London. He stands on top of Big Ben with his umbrella open, taking in the stunning view. Next, he hits up a local pub and picks up a beautiful blonde woman there. The scene cuts. David is shirtless now, and the woman is sleeping peacefully in his bed. He seems pretty satisfied with his achievements. He heads back to his apartment, grabs a photo off the wall, and jumps straight to Fiji for some surfing. The next second, he is having breakfast on top of the Sphinx in Egypt. David thinks this dream life will last forever. But then, a guy named Roland busts into his apartment. He tells David he's been hunting him for 8 years, ever since that very first bank heist. David tries to show this intruder the door, but he hasn't used a door in so long, he actually forgets how to open it. Roland drops the act and blasts David with a high-voltage weapon. He seems to know exactly how to handle jumpers, and David can barely fight back. David finds an opening and jumps to the second floor. He grabs a photo, trying to jump out of there, but the electricity scrambles his focus, so he can't make the jump. Roland follows him upstairs and hits him with another shock. Then he just threw him downstairs. Roland moves in for the kill, but David dodges just in time. Roland fires an electrified cable that snags David. Roland shows absolutely no mercy to jumpers. Every move is lethal. Fighting through the pain, David manages to jump to his private vault. He grabs a pair of cutters and snaps the cable. Seconds before Roland bursts in, he grabs 2 bags of cash and jumps back to his childhood home. His dad, William, senses something and rushes to David's bedroom. David running away years ago made William realize how much he messed up. He's been sober for years now, and he begs David not to leave again, but David doesn't quite trust him, so he takes off. He finds Millie, who is now working as a bartender. David just watches her from a distance, not wanting to disturb her. He doesn't want to mess up her life, so he gets ready to leave. But suddenly he runs into Mark, the old school bully, who recognizes him instantly. David tries to brush him off, but then Millie calls out his name. She asks why he sat there watching her for 45 minutes without saying hi. David gives an awkward smile, and the spark between them is obvious. Mark gets jealous just like back in the day, and starts aggressively hitting on Millie right in front of David. David can't take it anymore and throws a punch. The fight spills out into the alley, and things get chaotic. David grabs Mark and jumps him straight into the bank vault. Mark is absolutely terrified by what just happened. David doesn't say a word, he just leaves, trapping Mark inside the vault alone. Back outside, Millie finds David quickly. She gently checks his injuries. Right then, David invites her to roam, promising the adventure she's always wanted. Millie thinks he's kidding, but looking into his eyes, she realizes he's dead serious. So, the next day, they hop on a plane to Rome. When they land, a private car is waiting for them. Millie is shocked to find out David actually owns an apartment there. She's curious about his job, but he just tells her he works in banking. Millie sees he's holding back, so she doesn't push it. By that evening, things get romantic, and they officially get together. Bright and early the next morning, David gets ready to take Millie to the Colosseum, a place she's always dreamed of visiting. But bad luck strikes. The Colosseum is closed today, so David uses a little bit of his power to force a door open. Just like that, they sneak inside to see the Colosseum without the crowds. Millie is actually pretty impressed by his connections. But while David is away for a moment, he bumps into a mysterious stranger named Griffin. Griffin warns him about casually popping open doors at the Colosseum. David thinks the guy is just looking for a fight, so he steps up to confront him. Then something happens that totally stuns David. It turns out, Griffin is a jumper too. Griffin warns David to stop jumping so carelessly, or he's going to bring trouble right to his doorstep. And sure enough, he's right. Roland's goons have already tracked them down. They pull weapons out of suitcases and fire electrified cables at the two jumpers. Griffin dodges them easily, but David isn't so lucky. He gets snagged and yanked down hard. Facing two attackers, Griffin doesn't even break a sweat. He takes them out in seconds. It's obvious Griffin is on a whole different level than David. David asks, "Who are these people?" Griffin tells him they are paladins, fanatics who specialize in hunting jumpers. Then Griffin drags the bodies away and vanishes. After all this chaos, David finally realizes this isn't a game. To keep Millie safe, he takes her to the airport and breaks up with her right there. It's the only way he can focus on the danger without worrying about her. Millie, completely blindsided and heartbroken, has no choice but to accept it. Later, David tracks Griffin down again, wanting intel on Roland. David keeps pestering him, so Griffin finally explains that paladins have been killing jumpers for centuries. To the paladins, anyone who can jump is an abomination, a thief stealing God's power. The paladins are religious fanatics, and they won't let anyone get away with using that power. Paladins don't just kill jumpers, they destroy their lives and everyone they love. They've even developed tech to hunt them down, like a machine that tracks jump scars, allowing them to follow jumpers through their own portals. Hearing this, David gets a sinking feeling about his dad. He jumps straight to his childhood home. He creeps into his father's room and finds him lying in a pool of blood. David grabs William and jumps him to the hospital, but there is no pulse. The doctors can't do anything to save him. Devastated, David curls up in a corner, crying for the first time in years. He realizes he can't fight Roland alone. He needs Griffin's help, but Griffin is reluctant. He doesn't play well with others, so he tries to ditch David and jump away. David won't take no for an answer. He grabs the jump scar, the rift left behind, and follows Griffin all the way to Tokyo, pestering him the whole time. Worn down by David's persistence, Griffin finally agrees to team up, but before they do anything, he needs to teach David a few things. After all, David is still way too weak. Griffin shows David advanced techniques, like jumping an entire vehicle through heavy traffic. David is totally blown away by the move. He asks Griffin how he managed to jump a 2-ton car so smoothly, but Griffin just shrugs, saying that's basic stuff. He mentions he once saw a guy jump a whole building like it was nothing, so they keep jumping from night until daybreak. Their goal is to make as much noise as possible to draw Roland out. Then they decide to split up. Griffin goes to prep some weapons while David goes to find Millie. He needs to secure his only weakness, but obviously Millie is still furious with him. David doesn't have time to explain. Roland has already tracked them to the building. So, David has no choice but to reveal his powers to Millie right then and there. Millie is completely freaked out by what she sees and is too scared to even get near David. But Roland is practically at the door. With no other option, David grabs her and forcibly jumps them both to Griffin's lair. However, they underestimated Roland. Roland pulls out the jump scar machine from a case and flips the switch. Instantly, the sky turns pitch black. Roland jumps right through the portal after them. Before David can react, he gets pinned to the wall by a cable. As Roland closes in, David starts begging for mercy, but Roland just pulls out a knife, ready to finish him. Just in time, Griffin uses a flamethrower to drive Roland back. David seizes the moment to cut himself loose, but the fire doesn't kill Roland. Seeing this, Griffin punches Roland, sending him flying. While Roland is still dazed, Griffin disappears in a car. Just as Roland looks around in panic, Griffin suddenly reappears, jumping a bus right at him. Roland can't dodge and gets smashed into the sand, but Roland is tough. He crawls out of the sand and starts advancing on Millie. Luckily, Griffin arrives just in time and blasts him with the flamethrower, sending him jumping back to Millie's apartment. Determined to kill Roland once and for all, Griffin jumps to the apartment too and gets into a brutal brawl with him. Meanwhile, With Millie's help, David manages to break free from his restraints. Just then, Griffin jumps back to them. He has stolen Roland's jumpscare machine. Without that device, the paladins can't follow them through jumps. But shockingly, Roland fires a cable through the open jumpscare and yanks Millie all the way back to the apartment. David jumps after her without hesitation, but Roland has turned the place into a trap. Dozens of cables shoot out and pin David down. He is completely immobilized. Roland walks toward him, looking smug. Facing Roland's arrogance, David unleashes an incredible amount of power. The whole apartment starts to crack and split. As Roland looks on in shock, David jumps the entire room directly into a river. Water instantly floods the room as the structure sinks rapidly. In that desperate moment, David jumps the room again, landing it in the library. But Roland is somehow still alive. David quickly gets Millie to safety. He isn't finished with Roland. He jumps Roland to a remote cave in the Grand Canyon, thousands of feet above the ground. David tells him he could have dropped him in a shark pit, but he chose mercy. Then he turns and leaves the cave. Roland is left completely stranded. Without the jumpscare machine, he is stuck there with no way out. David returns to Millie, and they stand together, looking out at a world full of possibility.